Hello everyone, my name is Antonis and it's my pleasure to introduce you to my colleagues Pato, Arno and Bam. Today we will analyze the movie Wolf of Wall Street and the numerous laws that were broken. The Wolf of Wall Street is a 2013 American biographical comedy crime film based on the 2007 memoir of the same name Jordan Belfort. It recounts Belfort's perspective on his career as a stockbroker in New York City and how his firm Stratton Oakman engaged in corruption and fraud on the Wall Street, which ultimately led to his downfall. The Wolf of Wall Street begins in 1987. Jordan Belfort is a Wall Street broker for L.F. Rothschild. His boss, Mark Hanna, introduces him to the greed is good stockbroker culture with a lot of drugs, women and money. When Black Monday hits in October, Jordan loses his job. He takes a new position at a broker firm on Long Island that specializes in penny stock. They use an aggressive sales pitch with investors that it turns high commission and he makes a ton of money. Jordan and his neighbor Donny Aruzov go into business together, founding their own broker firm, giving the firm the respectable sounding name of Stratton Oakman. Jordan then hires some friends and teaches them the art of hard selling. Soon their success attracts the attention of the Forbes magazine, who however published a very negative article about Jordan Belfort and his company, calling him the Wolf of Wall Street. The article however actually helps the company more than it hurts them. Now hundreds of ambitious men and women apply to Stratton Oakman daily. As Jordan becomes more and more successful, he slips into a lifestyle of sex, drugs and more lies. After he has an affair with a young woman named Naomi, Jordan's wife divorces him and Jordan marries Naomi. Meanwhile, the FBI begins an investigation on Stratton Oakman after Jordan illegally made $22 million on the Steve Manton IPO. The FBI further intensifies their inspection of his dealings. Jordan, with the help of an unscrupulous banker named John Cherkis, opens a Swiss bank account in the name of Naomi's aunt Emma. To hide his money from the law, he picks Emma because she's a British national and those outside of US authority. He then recruits his wife-in-laws who have European passports to smuggle the money into Switzerland. It's at this time that Jordan private investigators learns the FBI is wiretapping his phone. Jordan's father advises him to leave Stratton Oakman and play it cool for a while so his lawyers can negotiate a deal to keep him out of prison. As Jordan goes to quit, he talks himself into staying during his goodbye speech to his workers. Aunt Emma dies while Jordan, Donny and their families are on vacation in Italy. Jordan rushes off to Switzerland to get his money out of Emma's account. He has his yacht captained to sail to Monaco to avoid border controls, but a storm destroys the ship along the way. Then a seagull flies into their rescue plane engine. Jordan believes this is a sign from God and he looks to sober up and change the lifestyle. A few years pass before the FBI is able to arrest Jordan. They only manage to do so because his corrupt banker John Cherkis gets himself arrested in Florida on unrelated charges. Once there, he rents Jordan out to the feds. By now, the evidence against Jordan is overwhelming, and so he agrees to rat out his colleagues in exchange for a milder sentence. Naomi abandons Jordan and files for divorce, waiting for full custody of the children. This leads to an argument where he tries to drive away with his daughter, but he crashes his car while pulling out of the garage. The next morning, the FBI has Jordan wear a wire to work, but he slips a note of warning to Donny. Donny keeps his note and later rents Jordan out to the FBI over it. They arrest Jordan for breaching his side of the deal. The FBI then raids Stratton Oakman and shuts it down. Jordan is still managed to receive a reduced sentence for his testimony, even though he breaches terms of the deal. He served 3 years in a minimum sentence prison, and once he gets out, he earns a pretty good living by selling sales technique seminars, his autobiography, and a film based on his life story. Thank you.
The movie Wolf of Wall Street covers many legal as well as ethical issues, so I'll be breaking each one of them down and giving you a thorough explanation of how each law was broken. First of all, the types of sales practices that they used were extremely illegal. They had their boiler room operations where they had people engage in extremely risky investments. Then we have the pump and dump scheme, which is subjected directly to securities manipulation, which is also extremely illegal. and also owning stocks on someone's behalf and laundering money to Swiss bank. So let's start with the pump and dump scheme. So first we have the pumping of the shares, where Belfort had his wealthiest, most trustworthy clients buy large amounts of penny stocks while guaranteeing them a high fixed rate of return. And that when they purchased those stocks, the prices of the stocks went up, and there were his rat holes where he stored his stocks on others' behalf. Then he deployed his army of brokers to sell these increasing price stocks to investors with the sole purpose of inflating the price. So now we have the dumping of the shares. Once the price is inflated at a certain point, Belfort and his close partners dumped billions of shares into the market and obviously paid his small circle of clients the fixed rate of amount as promised in the beginning, and also made millions of dollars for himself. His broker army continues trying to sell, convincing investors that the small decline was only for a short period of time and it's time to buy more. It keeps the price from falling freely and helps Jordan Belfort make a fortune. Stratton Oakmont at its peak once employed around 1,000 brokers, so that means 1,000 people were trying to convince investors that it's a good idea to invest in risky stocks. So now let's break down each law that was broken in the duration of the movie. So first of all, we have the possession of a controlled substance under federal law. Generally, a possession of a controlled substance may be prosecuted under federal law whenever you travel with drugs in interstate or international commerce. Crossing state line is probably the most common way you can be federally prosecuted for unlawful drug possession, which happens several times in the movie. They even hide it in their body so that they can use the drugs in other countries. Then we have Monu Laundering. After finding out that the FBI started investigating him, Jordan Belfort laundered about $20 million he obtained through his various investment schemes. He recruits his British aunt to secure a Swiss bank account for his ill-gotten money in an effort to hide and therefore prevent the funds from being seized by the US government. He goes to the highest extent to hide his money. Next, we have engaging in prostitution. Throughout the duration of the movie, we see that Jordan Belfort and his colleagues hires the services of many prostitutes. Prostitution, like drug possession, is usually prosecuted as a state offense unless the crime involves crossing state lines or foreign travel. Now I'll be talking about the ethical issues that happens in the movie. Firstly, the film raises ethical questions about the nature of the goals which Belfort articulates, as well as the way they are achieved. In Belfort's world, the means to justify the ends, with the only objective being able to make money for himself and for his company, with no concerns for how it is achieved or whether anyone suffers in the process. Secondly, the film raises concerns about the type of blind devotion that Belfort seems to be able to develop in his employees. However, the employees aren't depicted as dupes, but are instead active and complicit in buying into the Belfort vision, driven by the same objective as Belfort to make themselves financially rich. Ultimately, the film leaves viewers feeling uncomfortable about the behavior of both Belfort and his employees. There are quite a few scenes where Belfort is given a motivational speech where he mainly talks about that they have no choice but to get rich. No matter what happens in the process, the end result is money. The film also raises questions about the male-biased, hypermasculine, and bullying nature of the culture within Belfort's firm. In this domain, men are scared to reveal any signs of weakness, as doing so provides others with the opportunities to criticize them or even fire them. One specific example is where the employee ends up getting fired because of cleaning a fishbowl in the office. That showed weakness and lack of focus on the task. They continue to bully him by eating his fish, which is very unethical. Furthermore, Belfort and all the male characters in the film treat women either as sex objects, trophy wives, or both, with the female characters depicted as being knowingly complicit in this process. The disturbing nature of his vision is amplified by the fact that academic and journalistic research suggests that such values and behaviors are not uncommon. For example, with the stories of clients being entertained in lap dancing clubs. Therefore, while the film represents a brilliant piece of entertainment, it also raises some serious concerns in the corporate world of investment banking.
Moving on from the ethical issue and legal nature to the resolution part of this film, how the situation panned out was it initially started when Mr. Sorel, the Swiss banker of Mr. Belfort, who launders money for him, got arrested in US soil. And as an outcome of this, Mr. Sorel incriminated all his clients, including Mr. Belfort. And this culmination substantiated the current investigation and case against Mr. Belfort regarding the schemes that were previously executed and the illegal activities that is currently ongoing. And from this, Mr. Belfort was charged with one count engaging in conspiracy to commit securities fraud, 2 counts securities fraud, 1 count engaging in conspiracy to commit money laundering, 21 counts money laundering, 1 count obstruction of justice. Thus, bail was set at a price of $10 million US dollars. In the negotiation between the district attorney and Mr. Belfort, it was mentioned that money laundering can get an individual as much as 20 years in prison plus a fine depending on the degree of the case. However, the prosecution offered Mr. Belfort a sentence of 4 years in jail if Mr. Belfort would provide them with full cooperation by creating a comprehensive list of co-conspirators spanning the last 7 years and also agrees to wear a wire. In the end, Mr. Belfort accepted the offer and fully cooperated with the request of the prosecution. He also agreed to plead guilty to all counts of the indictment against him in the United States District Court for Eastern District of New York City. Furthermore, since Mr. Belfort fully cooperated with the Fed and helped the US government convict around 24 of criminal cases and also assisted in recovering billions of dollars that was made available for restitution to their victims, Mr. Belfort was sentenced to 36 months or 3 years in federal prison and was fined $110 million US dollars. And analyzing and comparing the legal nature of this particular case and the ethical issue that was raised by my colleague to the facts of this resolution, it could be safe to conclude that Mr. Belfort received the minimum punishment in accordance to the legal consequences of the criminal law. As it was portrayed in the movie, Mr. Belfort was the conductor of the orchestra. And usually, holding a high position to a suspected scheme and a certain illegal activity, the prosecution would seek the maximum sentence permissible by law. However, and instead, Mr. Belfort was sentenced to a duration period shorter than the original offer.
The case of the Wall of Wall Street came to order in 1998. At this point in time, government regulations were not well balanced. Corporations were able to find loopholes to act on malicious activities in order to achieve much greater profits. The movie reflects how Jordan Belfort, Andrew Green, Stephen P. Sanders are part of the chairman, president, and chief financial officer. This film is able to represent how characters are able to alter and forge the ownership of the internal financial records and statements and reports of the company. In order to prevent these frauds, the government could have used SOX 404. This action came to order in July 2002. After plenty corporate frauds such as Enron and WorldCom, SOX 404 framework mandates that all public trade companies to establish the integrity of the internal control of their corporation. It commands that management and auditors to have financial reporting, documents and tests that establish proper financial control of the internal affairs of their corporation. SOX 404 allows to increase the knowledge of the internal control through the organization, as well to establish official ownership of the internal control. It allows the rapid remediation on deficiencies. It increases the transparency over the events and may impact on the financial statement disclosure. Unfortunately, this practice was made until 2002, allowing many other corporations to commit fraud until this time and engage in malicious activities. Regardless, it has created stronger government regulations allowing to generate greater balance to markets. Another recommendation will be the whistleblowing. This one means to raise concern about wrongdoing risk or malpractice with someone with authority, either internal or external, as well as use the public disclosure interest, or PDA, that was founded in 1998. It provides protections to workers making disclosures in public interest and allows such individuals to claim compensation for victimization. In terms of whistleblowing inside the film, the movie reflects how Jordan Belfort, the chairman, his ex-colleague Brad J., the drug dealer, and Donny Asphalt, other chairman, argue about transporting millions of dollars to Geneva, Switzerland. Brad J., the drug dealer, gets apprehended, getting a reduced sentence by giving a detailed explanation about the malpractices conducted on the film. Without this, the FBI wouldn't be able to have tangible information against Jordan Belfort. It will be considered as a forced whistleblowing, as Brand wasn't inside the operations of the company. In terms of the brokers and staff of Stratton Oak Inc., the firm was able to create a bubble where employees felt comfortable conducting fraud or malicious activity, as well to promote the use of drugs, sexual activities, and violence. Almost none of the employees went to jail at this time, primarily because of the limitations of law enforcement of the resources needed to collect all the necessary facts in order to put everyone on jail. The situation could have ended differently. Nowadays, employees are more protected than ever. In the case of the employees decided to implement the whistleblowing, this could have brought up a red flag on the Wall Street. The employees will be protected by the PDA and they could have prevented the future actions of the company. An example of famous whistleblowing: Sharon Walking and Cynthia Cooper, the Enron and WorldCom. The government has announced numerous laws to regulate the business and strength of protecting the corporate whistleblowers. Both women who helped expose frauds and accounting practices at Enron and WorldCom. Both women has testified to the Congress about the fraud and exposed over $3.8 billion worth of accounting fraud. Finally, the Wall of Wall Street allows us to think about the integrity of the Wall Street. The Wall Street is the world's largest stock exchange market. This allows thousands of companies to compete in the public market. The Wall of Wall Street is based on real life. Jordan Belfort is considered the fourth biggest Wall Street bust of all time. He went to jail almost 2 years. The total damage of his investors totaled to $200 million, $110 million, which Belfort was ordered to pay back to the court. After drugs, prostitution, alcohol, and going to jail, who is he now? Today, his life represents the ultimate redemption story, considered as the American biggest entrepreneurial icon. Wall Street new motivational speaker who assists both people and organizations to achieve success. Ethically speaking, the case has raised serious concerns about the integrity of Wall Street and the people working in there, as well as the doubt if we should forgive or applaud this type of behaviors.